What's up, collectors? Welcome to Films by Color. I've got a recommendation video for you guys today. 5 films in the Criterion collection that I think are perfect to watch around the Halloween season. Criterion actually has quite a bit of movies that are perfect for spooky season. I just went through my own personal collection and pulled 12 off the shelf, but I'm not going to be talking about all 12. Figured I'd keep this video relatively brief, just give you some quick recs, and then you can run off to the Criterion October Flash sale that just started today. 24 hours only, and all of their titles will be 50% off. So make sure you head over to their site and pick up some titles while you can, and maybe pick up some of these while you're at it. 2 films I'm not going to mention in this video because I feel like I've talked about them enough on this channel. If you've been following this channel for any amount of time, you've probably heard me mention these films at some point. These are my 2 favorite go-to Halloween movies. They're both in the Criterion collection, and I try to watch them every single year. It's a little bit of a tradition in this house. The first one is House, and the second one is Arsenic and Old Lace. Incredible films, my absolute favorites. You gotta watch those every year with a group of friends. So much fun. But I figured I'd leave those off today and leave some space on the list for some new films to talk about, starting with 1932's Island of Lost Souls. This is such a great pre-code horror movie based on an H.G. Wells novel, a cautionary tale about the dangers of misusing science, like a lot of his tales are, but this one specifically leans into the horror. We've got some horror greats acting in this. We've got Charles Laughton, Bela Lugosi. Charles Laughton plays a mad scientist who is mixing animal and human DNA to create these hybrid monsters, and the monsters really are the highlight of the movie. There's lots of other great aspects as well, but the monsters stand out. Groundbreaking makeup effects on these monsters, the detail, all the little individual hairs. You've probably seen some of these monsters. They've inspired lots of special effects artists over the years. Just do a quick Google search and it'll sell you on this movie. You basically get like 10 Universal monster movies all packed into one here. There's several monsters and they all look incredible. Charles Laughton, I want to say hamming it up in the lead, but he's not even really hamming it up. There's actual some genuine terror going on. He's actually doing some incredibly creepy things with his performance, and such an incredible performance from Charles Laughton. You got Bela Lugosi as kind of the lead monster against him, but there's lots of other things going on. There's a kidnapping plot. It's basically an adventure film. It feels like a 1930s adventure film, combined with a really genuinely creepy horror film, and I absolutely love this Criterion edition. I've watched it a couple times now, and it is a perfect staple to watch during the Halloween season. If you haven't checked that one out yet, I highly recommend it. Next up, we've got one that I just watched for the first time this year, so I haven't had time to do a rewatch yet, but I liked it quite a bit, and it might become a Halloween staple as well. It is The Uninvited, directed by Lewis Allen. This is just a straight up ghost story, perfect for spooky season. It's about a brother and sister from London who moved to this beautiful clifftop house in Cornwall. It's an amazing house. They don't know why they get it for such an affordable price. Turns out, house is haunted. Had to get a haunted house film on this list since I left House off of it, but this one is great as well. 1944, but kind of ahead of its time in how seriously it took the haunted house genre. We had a lot of haunted house films right before this, and horror films in general, pre-code horror films and post-pre-code horror films in the 30s and early 40s that were, like I said earlier, hamming it up, being a little silly and over the top with it. This one actually plays it very straight, and it's got this romance going on between the granddaughter of the ghost and the brother who's moving into the house, and I really like him a lot. Ray Milland is his name, and he's an actor I wasn't familiar with before this, but he has got a lot of Cary Grant mannerisms going on. There's some great understated comedy that he delivers perfectly in this film. It's a perfect balance of, like I said, some dark comedic moments, but also some genuinely kind of terrifying, or at least, chilling moments in this haunted house film that's also a crime mystery. There's a mystery plot going on. You don't know what exactly happened in the house with the ghost. A lot of great stuff going on, including some really, really great early projection visual effects with the ghost, which I was not expecting. I was expecting this to be much more subtle, and it is subtle, but there are some times where they lean in and actually show the ghost, and it looks great. It looks so good. I don't want to spoil anything else. Check out The Uninvited if you haven't. It's been on my list for a few years, and I'm so glad I finally checked it off this year in the spooky season, because it was a perfect watch for Halloween. Next, we've got an all-time favorite of mine. I could not leave this one off the list. It's Häxan, 1922 Swedish silent film. Just look at that cover. Just that cover alone tells you that this is perfect to watch around spooky season. This is a really hard film to describe, but I'm going to do my best for you. It is a documentary, but it's also a horror film, but it's also a comedy. It's historical, it is horrific, it's very funny, darkly comedic. I don't know how else to explain it. It is basically a documentary trying to prove the hypothesis that the way we treated witches back in medieval times is exactly the same, kind of the modern times equivalent, or at least modern when this came out in the 20s, of the psychiatric patients in asylums and how we're treating them kind of the exact same way. And I think it does an incredible job of actually proving that point, while all at the same time showing some horrific images, some gross images, and also some really fun black comedy. You've got the director in this playing the devil himself, and he's doing this really like tongue thing the whole time. It's pretty iconic. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. If not, I just look like a crazy person. But this is so much fun. It's weird I'm saying this, but it's so much fun, but it's also so atmospheric and genuinely creepy and a little bit disturbing, but also parts of it feel like a college lecture you're watching. It's everything. It's one of my favorites, like I said. Highly recommend Haxan. Don't let the fact that I called it a documentary turn you off if you're not a documentary person, because it is unlike any documentary you've ever seen. It's mostly reenactments of devils and witches and really fun costuming and all kinds of cool imagery. It is very funny, a lot of fun, a feast for the eyes, but also hits you with the emotionally resonant punch there at the end that I for sure wasn't expecting. It's great. I highly recommend it. Unlike anything you've ever seen, please give Haxan a chance. Next, we've got another horror mystery thriller film from 1955, another one of my personal favorites. It's Les Diaboliques from Henri-Georges Clouzot. This is very Hitchcockian. If you love Hitchcock, you gotta check this one off the list. This is specifically very Psycho, which is my personal favorite Hitchcock film and another movie I like to watch around Halloween, but that's not in the Criterion collection. But this is, and it's 5 years before Psycho. It's 1955. French film. Clouzot and Hitchcock were kind of going back and forth during this time period, taking inspiration from each other. And this is, like I said, very similar. You've got kind of this murder plot going on. There's this awful guy, him right here with the forehead, horrible dude, despicable, treats his wife terribly, works at a boys' school and just abuses the boys. So he's an awful guy. We set him up to be terrible, so much so that his wife and his mistress joined together to plan his murder. So it's about murdering this guy. And then as it goes on, there are some eerie kind of spooky things going on, which is what makes it fit into, it's not just a murder plot. Otherwise it wouldn't really be on this list. But then some almost supernatural things start happening, starting with his body disappearing. So they lose his corpse, and then other supernatural things start happening. I don't want to give too much away because this is definitely one that has a twist at the end, like Psycho. And it also has an incredible lead performance by Vera Clouzot, who plays his wife, that rivals Janet Leigh in Psycho. Perfect use of no score, like perfect sound design, very genuinely creepy. It's one that'll have you looking behind you while you're watching. Turn the lights off and watch this one at night. It is very atmospheric, very chilling, very suspenseful in that Hitchcockian way, and I can't recommend it enough. I really, really enjoyed watching this one, and it is another one that is time for a rewatch. All right, last one here. We're already at number 5. We're gonna leave France and go all the way to Japan. This is a Japanese horror film from 1965. I didn't even mean to do this, but I've got one from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and now 60s. It's Qui Daon from 1965, directed by Kobayashi. Another one that I just watched for the first time this year, and good grief did this blow me away. An incredible movie. This is probably my favorite of everything I've talked about so far. Highly recommend you check this one out if you haven't seen it yet. This is an epic. It's 3 hours long, so you gotta strap in for this one. It's also apparently slow-paced. People tell me it's slow-paced. I was kind of riveted the whole time. I didn't feel the pacing at all. I think it moves pretty quick. It helps that it is divided up into 4 different stories, so it's 4 different ghost stories based on Japanese folklore. And I love that it just plays each tale completely straight. It doesn't try to Americanize them like we like to do over here. We like to have this big lesson that you learn from fairy tales. In Japanese folklore, sometimes it's just deities or these godlike beings just messing with people. And there's usually like a very succinct kind of simple moral lessons, like don't break your oaths or that kind of thing. But A couple of these stories are just spirits messing with people. It's wonderfully atmospheric, beautiful production design. He is creating all of the sets in this giant airplane hangar. The sets are huge. They're gigantic. All of the stories are taking place outside, but they're all inside this giant warehouse where he's just concocted these incredible sets. All the production is wonderful. Costume design is on point. It looks amazing. Nothing takes you out of this movie. I was in it for the 3 hours that I was watching it. The third tale is kind of the most famous. It's kind of the longest too. I feel like it's almost an hour just by itself, but it's incredible. It's what I've seen. All of the imagery I've seen from this movie is in that third tale, and then the fourth one is just crazy. I was not expecting the fourth one at all. Highly recommend Qui Daon. If you've seen Kobayashi's stuff, this is very different from any of his other stuff. He's usually known for like doing very human, like bleak, like the Human Condition trilogy, stuff like that. This is completely out of left field for him, and he's good at this too. He can do anything. The folklore in this is awesome, and it's right up my alley. It's the kind of film I love, and I hate that I've waited this long to watch it, but I'm glad I finally did. I watched it this month. This is one I'm definitely going to be revisiting in the future. If you have not watched Qui Daon yet, definitely check that one out. Maybe grab it in the October sale, and that's it. That's all 5 recommendations. One from each decade. There you go. So whatever floats your boat. If you like 20 stuff, 30 stuff, 40s, 50s, or 60s, there is a good selection for you. Maybe throw some of those in your cart as you're perusing the Criterion sale today. And if you don't get it today, then the November sale is coming right around the corner at Barnes & Noble. So there's always time to buy some wonderful Criterion films. Thank you for listening to me just gush about some films that I really, really like. And then maybe we'll do this again sometime. Like I said, I've got plenty more that I could talk about. Maybe we'll save those for next year. But in the meantime, I'll talk to you guys down in the comments below. Let me know your favorite Criterion films that you like to watch around the season, because I'm always looking for more recommendations from you guys as well. If you like these kind of recommendation videos, please let me know by hitting the like button or the subscribe button, or leaving me a comment down below, because I need a little bit of motivation. I always want to make these recommendation videos, but they are some of the hardest videos for me to make. But I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope it was useful to you. I hope you got something out of it. And until next time, keep collecting, and I'll be back with another one real soon.